The house stood at the end of a narrow street where even the wind seemed afraid to pass after sunset. People rarely looked toward it for too long because something about its dark windows felt unnatural, as if the house itself was silently watching everyone who crossed its path. When Ramesh moved there with his wife Sarita and their two children, Chiku and Babli, they believed their difficult days were finally over. The house was old but cheap, and for a middle-class family trying to build a better life in a new city, it felt like a blessing. During the first few days, everything seemed normal. Workers unpacked furniture, Sarita cleaned the dusty rooms, and Chiku explored every corner excitedly. But Babli behaved differently from the moment she stepped inside. While everyone else admired the house, she stood silently in the hallway, staring at the large antique mirror hanging beside the staircase. Her eyes remained fixed on it for so long that even Sarita became uncomfortable and called her away. Babli slowly turned and whispered something under her breath before walking upstairs. At night, strange sounds echoed through the house, soft tapping noises, faint whispers. Sometimes it sounded as if someone was scratching the walls from inside. Ramesh blamed old pipes and wooden panels, but Babli stopped sleeping properly. Every night, she sat in front of the mirror in her room and spoke to someone no one else could see. At first, Sarita thought it was childish imagination. One evening, she entered Babli's room carrying folded clothes and found her daughter smiling at the mirror. Babli's lips moved slowly, as if answering questions. "Who are you talking to?" Sarita asked. Babli pointed toward the mirror without taking her eyes away from it. "My friend," she said softly. Sarita looked carefully but saw only Babli's reflection. "There's nobody there," she replied. Babli's smile faded. "She hides when you come." Sarita forced herself to laugh and warned Babli not to waste time inventing stories. But as days passed, Babli became more distant from everyone. She stopped eating with the family. She avoided sunlight. Sometimes she would suddenly start smiling while staring into empty spaces, as if listening to someone invisible standing nearby. Late at night, Sarita often woke up hearing faint conversations from Babli's room. Whenever she opened the door, Babli would immediately become silent, but her mirror always felt strange. Its surface looked darker than normal, almost alive. One night, Chiku secretly stood outside Babli's room after hearing her whispering again. Through the half-open door, he saw her sitting cross-legged on the floor, facing the mirror. "Please let me sleep tonight," she begged softly. A few seconds later, she nodded slowly, like someone had answered. Then she smiled nervously. "Okay, I'll come back tomorrow." Chiku's heart started beating faster. Suddenly, the room temperature dropped so sharply that his breath became visible. The mirror flickered strangely. For one terrifying second, Chiku saw another reflection standing behind Babli. It was tall, thin, and unnaturally dark, with long arms hanging beside its body. Its face looked melted, but two pale, glowing eyes stared directly at him. Chiku stumbled backward in fear, making a sound. Instantly, the figure disappeared. Babli turned around quickly and closed the door. The next morning, Chiku tried telling his parents, but Ramesh became angry. "Enough horror stories," he shouted. "You're scaring your sister for no reason." Sarita agreed, believing both children were influencing each other. But deep down, she also felt something was wrong. Strange things kept happening inside the house. Mirrors fogged up without reason. Footsteps echoed upstairs when nobody was there. Once, Sarita walked past the hallway mirror and noticed her reflection smiling, even though she wasn't. She froze. When she looked again, it became normal. Fear slowly entered the family, like poison spreading through blood. Babli grew weaker every day. Dark circles formed under her eyes. Sometimes she spoke in a voice that didn't sound like her own. One evening during dinner, she suddenly stared at the empty kitchen wall and whispered, "She says she doesn't like all of you." Everyone became silent. Ramesh slammed his hand on the table angrily. "Enough!" he shouted. Babli flinched, but then her lips curled into a strange smile that clearly did not belong to a little girl. "You shouldn't shout at me. She gets angry." The lights immediately went out. Plates crashed onto the floor. Something heavy moved upstairs. Sarita screamed while Chiku grabbed his father's arm tightly. A cold wind rushed through the kitchen, although every window was closed. Then, from somewhere inside the house, came the sound of laughter. Slow, deep, female, inhuman. Ramesh forced himself to check upstairs, while Chiku followed behind, trembling. Babli's room door stood open. The mirror reflected only darkness. Suddenly, a voice whispered directly beside Chiku's ear. "You saw me before." Chiku spun around, but nobody stood there. The mirror began shaking violently against the wall. Cracks spread across its surface like spider webs. Then, a hand appeared inside the reflection. A pale human hand pressing from the other side, as if someone was trapped within the glass. Chiku screamed and ran downstairs. That night, none of them slept. The next day, Sarita covered every mirror in the house with bedsheets, but Babli became hysterical. She screamed, cried, and scratched the sheets away while shouting, "She can't breathe! Don't trap her!" Ramesh finally understood this was no ordinary behavior. He called a priest, but when the priest entered Babli's room, he immediately turned pale. He stared silently at the mirror before muttering prayers under his breath. "There is something evil here. This spirit has attached itself to the child." He warned them never to speak to the entity no matter what happened. That night, the priest performed rituals inside the house. Holy water was sprinkled across walls while prayers echoed through every room. For a few moments, everything seemed calm. Then the mirror suddenly exploded. Glass pieces flew across the room. The lights flickered violently. Babli collapsed unconscious, while a terrifying scream echoed throughout the house, shaking the walls like thunder. The priest stumbled backward in fear. "It's angry," he shouted, "very angry." Blood began dripping from the remaining pieces of broken glass, even though nobody was injured. Chiku stared in horror as words slowly appeared across the mirror's surface, written in dark liquid. "She belongs to me." Sarita broke down crying, while Ramesh tried desperately carrying Babli outside, but the front door refused to open. Every window slammed shut on its own. The house felt alive, breathing, trapping them. Then, Babli suddenly opened her eyes. They were completely black. She stood up unnaturally fast and pointed toward the hallway mirror downstairs. "She wants us all now," Babli whispered in two voices at once. Before anyone could react, every covered mirror in the house shattered simultaneously. Loud cracks exploded through every room. From each broken reflection emerged dark moving shadows, crawling across walls and ceilings like giant insects. Chiku watched one shadow stop near him before stretching upward into the shape of a woman with twisted limbs and tangled hair covering her face. Her head tilted unnaturally. "Why are you afraid? We only wanted a family." Sarita fainted instantly, while Ramesh grabbed Chiku and Babli, forcing them into one room upstairs. The priest shouted prayers from outside while trying to break the door open. Inside the room, the temperature dropped until frost covered the windows. Babli slowly walked toward the last unbroken mirror. The shadow woman appeared clearly inside it now. Her face looked rotten, her eyes empty and black like deep holes. "I was alone for so many years. Your daughter spoke to me. She listened." Babli began walking toward the mirror, as if hypnotized. Chiku grabbed her arm, but invisible force threw her across the room. Ramesh tried to smash the mirror with a chair, but the chair bounced away as though the glass were made of steel. The spirit inside the reflection started crawling outward, inch by inch. Her fingers emerged first, long and broken. Then her head pushed through the surface unnaturally. The mirror rippled around her body. Sarita regained consciousness just in time to see the horrifying figure climbing into the room. She screamed louder than ever before. The priest finally burst inside, holding sacred fire and chanting loudly. The spirit shrieked in rage. The entire house shook violently. Walls cracked. Furniture flew across the room. The priest ordered them to close their eyes while he continued praying. The spirit screamed directly into Babli's face. "You promised to stay with me forever." Babli cried uncontrollably while dark veins spread across her skin. Chiku ignored his fear and grabbed the mirror from the wall with all his strength. "If the mirror dies, she dies," he shouted. Together, he and Ramesh dragged the mirror downstairs while the spirit chased them through the hallway, crawling across walls and ceilings. Her screams echoed like hundreds of voices combined together. The priest ordered them to throw the mirror into the fire. Ramesh poured kerosene over the broken furniture, while Chiku held the heavy mirror trembling in fear. The spirit suddenly appeared inches away from Chiku, her mouth stretched unnaturally wide. "You cannot escape me," she hissed. Chiku closed his eyes and pushed the mirror directly into the flames. The moment fire touched the glass, the spirit released a scream so loud, every window in the house shattered. Flames rose violently. The shadow